Greetings, I am Herbert Erpaderp, and today I figured I might do something a bit different. I'm going to do some Warhammer 40K, and obviously I'll be building the Tau XV88 Broadside Battlesuit. You can tell because you can see it on the screen, and it's in the title. You can probably also see that this is quite an old box. I've had this kit since around the time this model was released, which according to my calculations is about 10 years ago. The packaging for this kit is quite different now, but I don't imagine the plastic inside the box has changed at all. I found this while cleaning up, and figured, why not build it? I have no plans at all to play 40k, so I won't be magnetizing anything, or putting any real thought into how the model is armed. I just figured this would be fun to build and maybe someday to paint. What this means is I have no interest at all on anybody's thoughts on how this is armed or any theory crafting or whatever. I just don't care. I know what 40k nerds are like, and you're probably already furiously typing away how awful Tau is or what awful weapons I've chosen, but stop. Get some help. Anyway, I feel like I've done more than enough waffling. Let's have a look at what's in the box. You get 2 sprues, and on those sprues there should be more than enough parts to build the broadside and its various weapon systems. The plastic here is quite nice, it's crisp and looks rather good. There are of course mould lines, there are always mould lines, but they're pretty minor here and I didn't have to do a lot of cleanup. That said, this is an early moulding, so the tooling would have been relatively new and fresh when this was made, and it has been quite a few years, so I wouldn't be surprised if the current versions of this kit have a bit more in the way of mould lines, and I've got no interest in spending the thousands of dollars to buy a new one just to compare for this video. I do think the parts here look quite good, and of course, as with all of the Warhammer kits I've built in the past, there's a lot of options for weapons and various other bits and pieces. The options, and thus extra bits for the bits box, is something I've always liked. In fact, you can see various Warhammer bits on the Battle Beetle I made several years ago. They're great for that sort of thing. Anyway, I'm waffling again, so... The kit does come with a base. I think this is a 60mm base.
You could at least measure it!
I could, and I will. It's a 60mm base. There's also one flight base for a drone. I believe there should be 2. I did open this box when I got it, so there's every chance I just lost one of the flight bases, whether or not it fell out of the box or I just lost it. It's not especially important to me because I won't be using this in a game anyway, but if I'd bought this and it didn't have a drone stand I would be annoyed. There's also a decal sheet. It's been a long time, so I've got no idea what any of these markings mean or how important they are, but they are here should you want to use them, as are the instructions. This is a little booklet and it kind of feels like a photocopy that's been stapled together. That's okay, it's still effective, and for the most part, the instructions are easy to understand and follow. There's a couple of diagrams in which the angle of the pictures are a little bit less than helpful, but nothing too awful. I'm sure the instructions included with a more recent boxing of this kit are a bit more glossy and fancy, and again, I'm not interested in buying a new one to find out, so this is what I've got, and this is what I'll be using. Okay, that's what's in the box. Let's glue some bits of grimdark space plastic together. I start, as the instructions instruct, with the hips, I guess you would call them. The parts are keyed, which is helpful, but you'll still need to do a bit of nudging and apply some pressure to get a really good fit. Try to get the sockets for the legs together as neatly as you can. That should ensure that they both look good and that there aren't any fitting issues down the track. Next I add this. On stream I decided that it was an armoured loincloth, so that's what we'll go with.
Actually...
Quiet you. There's a similar but slightly less fancy part that goes on the rear, like so. I think that's a good start, so let's build some legs. The instructions don't specify an order in which these parts should be put together, and they're both more or less the same. I found it a little bit easier to put the upper armour shieldy thing on first, and then the knee bit. The instructions were also a little bit unclear as to which way around the knee bit should go, but I think I got it right. The foot comes next, and this is really simple to put on. Just don't put it backwards or sideways. There's not really much in the way of variation for posing the model here, but I don't think that really matters. And you can always do plastic surgery if it's not quite what you want. Then I put this thing on. I don't know what it is, some sort of leg antenna? And with both legs assembled, why not attach them to the hips bit, whatever you want to call it. I didn't want to permanently attach the model to the base yet, but I did want it on the base. It should help with getting the legs positioned nicely. So I superglue the legs to the base. And of course, I'm using plastic cement to join the parts of the actual model together. Obviously, I didn't show attaching the first leg to the hips bit, but it's pretty simple. I'm sure you can imagine how it goes. You may need to hold the parts for a moment while they bond, but that's not especially challenging. Being a human clamp is fairly easy. Doing this makes it much easier to position the legs, and when I want to remove the model from the base to decorate it, the superglue bond will be easy to break. It might be called superglue, but it's not especially strong. It's quite brittle. Obviously, if you prefer, you could leave the model on the base and decorate around it. Either way is fine. Not every day can be leg day, so let's work on the upper body. First, I attach the part with the collar and tops of the, I assume they're jetpacks? I'm pretty sure Tau battlesuits have a jetpack thingy. Then the rear side part things go into place. They look like they should just drop right into place, but they don't, and I had to do a bit of kajiggering. Looking at the video now, I think maybe it would have been a little bit easier to put these parts on first, and then the upper necky bit thingy. I follow that with the rear bit, which has this pointy, another air intake thing.
You've got no idea what you're talking about, do you?
Sure don't. Whatever it is, it goes on here, pretty easy. There is a little platey thing with a Tau insignia that goes on the front of the body that should be on here at this point, but somehow I missed that in the instructions. It can't be that important. Surely nobody's going to notice that and get all angry about it and start commenting before the end of the video. Not on the internet, no way. I move on and glue together the two parts of what the instructions are saying is the cooling system assembly. I did initially try to glue this together the wrong way around, so don't do that. I follow this with the particle accelerator assembly. Not much to this, it's just a little mounting bit that goes on the inside of the disc thing. But do make sure that you put it up the right way. I'm sure this takes a bit more effort to put it in the wrong way, so do it the easy way. Why not now put both of those assemblies onto the model? First, the cooling system, which pretty much just drops right into place as easy as you like. The particle accelerator goes above that on the round bit, and you can tell when it's the right way up because there's a protrusion that links into the body. Simple. Next, the head, because why not? You get the choice of 3 face parts here, and I rather like that. I don't know if they've got any particular meaning in the 40k universe, but it is a nice way to have some variation if you've got more than one of these in your army. Then, an antenna can be mounted on the side of the head. There's also 3 of these you can choose from. Again, I'm not sure if there's anything to the choice other than,
hey, this one looks a bit different.
Or maybe it's a different faction or whatever. It didn't really matter to me, so I just went with what I thought looked most interesting. Now that the body is pretty much done, we might as well glue it to the leg assembly. You can have the body facing any way you like, but I feel like a somewhat forward-facing direction is probably the best choice. Time for weapon systems. First, the twin-linked smart missile system. All of the parts are numbered and they have different numbers, so there is certainly an order in which they should go together. However, it seems like the instructions want them put together wrong. Either that or I've misunderstood them. The way the instructions want this put together would have the missile pods sitting up a lot higher than the way I've actually put them together, which is how they look in the final result in the instructions, and I do think they look better this way, so this is what I've done. Unfortunately, they do look a little bit less than perfectly straight. Oh well. Onto the bottom of this set of missiles, I add this little arm thing. It's not really an arm, but I don't have a name for it. It's the bit that will hold the weapon onto the shoulder mount of the suit. I know there's going to be at least one ding-dong in the comments, pissing and moaning about the weapons I've used here or the fact that I'm not magnetizing them for maximum min-maxing, and if they want to complain into the void, that's their prerogative, I guess. But I'm almost definitely not going to be playing any games with this. I mean, never say never, but it's really unlikely. So again, I don't care which weapon systems you think are best. Like, at all. I've just chosen the things I think will look the coolest. Anyway, enough waffling again. Next weapon. I think the Seeker missile looks pretty cool, so why not use that? This is a fairly simple assembly, and this thin launching rail thing goes in here. On the bottom of the missile we have this thing. I wasn't 100% sure I was putting this on the right way, but it is on, and it looks right, so maybe it is. Onto the bottom of that assembly, I glue the other arm-holdy, shouldery thingy doodad, and those are the support systems. Now, the main weapon system, and another choice has to be made here. Either we use the high-yield missile pod, or the heavy rail rifle. I think the rail rifle looks way cooler, so that's what I've chosen. The first thing I assemble is the left arm. The arm itself consists of 2 parts, which are keyed, though there is a little bit of play here, and I don't think that's really a problem. Then, this shoulder shieldy thing goes on. The way I figured this should go on is with the Tau insignia in the correct orientation. The instructions show this at such an angle that it's a little bit unclear as to the way you should place it. It doesn't really link onto the arm all that well, so you've just got to kajigger it into what looks to be the right spot. And I would actually suggest leaving this off until a bit later, and we'll see why later. For now, it's time to build the gun. I glue the second, I guess you'd call it a barrel, onto the rest of the gun, which is simple enough. It's keyed so you can't get this wrong unless you really want to put some effort into it. Then, onto the ends, 2 more bits, which I guess you might call muzzle brakes. I don't know, they probably have fancy 40K names that I'm unaware of, but they look like muzzle brakes, so whatever. I found I had to apply a fair bit of pressure here to minimize the gaps, and they may still need a little bit of attention prior to painting. There are still more detail-y bits to add to the gun, like this thing. Most of these parts are just things, at least to me. I'm sure they've all got very interesting and deep lore to them, but the reality is they're just bits. This bit actually took a fair bit of pressure to force it all the way into the correct place. If the gun wasn't built into the suit's arm, I would say this might be a control thing with some sort of trigger guard around it. This next bit is, well, it's round. And it was a little bit fiddly to get this on straight and neat, but nothing too difficult. Whatever it is, I think it adds a lot of interest to the gun. This thing might be some sort of gun sight or aiming system or something. It almost looks like a Tau suit head. The final bit is the arm part, which, like the left arm, is also keyed. And in hindsight, I think it might have been a better idea to glue this on before all of the other parts, just so that when you go to attach it to the body, this part will have had plenty of time to bond nice and strong. Obviously so that it stays together when you kajigger it onto the body, which is what we'll do next. You could, if you want to, glue the left arm in place first, but I think it's probably a little bit easier, and less fiddly to do it the way that I've done it. I put glue in all of the connection points, and put it on the body all at once. It is slightly fiddly, but it's not the hardest thing to do. Obviously you want to make sure the gun is aimed in a somewhat sensible way, which is probably not pointing at the ground. Next, I glue the head into place. I figured that it would make sense to have the head facing in the same direction as the gun, but you don't have to do that. Maybe your broadside is so cool that they don't even have to look at what they're shooting at. The support systems go on next. The smart missiles on the right shoulder. The pods do look a bit weird because they're not perfectly straight, which is obviously a huge crime. In fact, I'm talking from modelling jail right now. Rip me, I guess. In a not at all surprising turn of events, this was followed by the smart missile. And I did have trouble with this, not only the video being in focus, but also fitting the part with the shoulder armor thing in the way. Fortunately, there wasn't a whole lot of surface area where the part contacts the arm, so it was pretty easy to break off, which allowed me to get the missile installed. So now you know why I would suggest leaving that shield off until this point. I would have if I knew this was going to happen. And that's it. Oh wait, maybe I should install that chest plate I forgot. I did that just after I finished the build stream and noticed that I'd forgotten the part. So, I put it on, no big deal, people in the comments have probably already raged about it, and I'll have a bit of a chuckle at that, I guess. It is probably slightly easier to do this before installing the railgun, but it wasn't at all difficult. And now, that's it. The Warhammer 40K Tau XV88 Broadside Battlesuit is now completed. The kit does come with enough stuff to make a couple of drones, though I only had one flight stand, and I did build one drone, but the video didn't turn out all that great, and this video isn't really about the drones anyway, and so if that's what you were excited to see, I'm sorry. Anyway, I'm pretty happy with how this model has turned out. It looks pretty much how I think it should, and like I've already said a few times, I don't actually plan on playing 40k. I do have a Tau army, and I would assume those models are still valid to play with, but I just don't want to. So I've just built this model for funsies, and I might paint it, but that won't be anytime soon. However, my current thoughts are that I might paint this with some metallic pinks and purples that I've got that I want to try out. While I had fun building this kit, because it was something different to do, you can't always do World War II tanks. Well, I mean, you can, but I don't want to. But that's really all this was, something fun and different. And only really because I dug this box up while cleaning. What that means is I almost definitely won't be building any more 40k kits in the future. At any rate, I don't have $7,000 spare to buy another Warhammer kit. Get it? Because Games Workshop stuff is expensive? Anyway, at this point, I think I'm just waffling. I don't have anything relevant to Warhammer to say, just that I think this was a fun kit to build and it looks pretty cool. And that is pretty much all I wanted from it. If you've got any questions or comments that aren't pissing and moaning about Warhammer weapon systems, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. If you've built one of these or any other cool models and you want to share, why not drop by our friendly Discord community and share some pictures? We'd love to see the things you've made. If you want to watch me build kits like this one live on stream, head on over to my Twitch channel, the link to which is in the description below. And if you've not already done so, why not subscribe here on YouTube for the low price of absolutely nothing, so you don't miss out on any future videos. Or, if you have the means, and you want to help a Herbert Erpaderp do Herbert Erpaderp things, and see my videos a bit early, consider becoming a patron. You can find links to Patreon, and all of my other things like Discord and social media in the description below. And, as always, I shall return soon. So until then, be excellent to each other, have a wonderful day, and thanks for watching. Farewell.